Censorship is not only in films and it's all around us. It's all around. It's in behavior. It's in dressing. It's in now in eating.
This is the state of affairs in a country that produces the largest number of films per year. How come a recent Akshay Kumar comedy, full of adult jokes and objectification of women, gets a US certificate, while a film like Superman gets censored for a kissing scene, or even an F1 movie gets censored for the use of a particular emoji? The problem would have been completely different if the ruling body, CBFC, had a fixed set of rules for every film. But films today are being censored left, right, and center based on arbitrary criteria. In 2016, there was a huge movement against the board, with the makers of Urda Punjab stood up against the CBFC's demand of 89 cuts, saying that the movie maligned the image of the state of Punjab. The censorship got so severe that the makers were even told to remove the mention of the word Punjab from the entire length of the movie, including its title. This was followed by one of the biggest retaliation, where the industry gathered for a press conference to openly speak about this diktat.
चाहे रिलीज हो कट के साथ चाहे ना हो, लेकिन आज अगर हम पीछे हट जाएंगे तो फिर वो दूसरा जितने भी फिल्म मेकर जो आगे फिल्म बनाएंगे वो कोई भी एक पॉलिटिकल फिल्म नहीं बना सकता, कि कोई भी रियल इंसिडेंट पे फिल्म नहीं बना सकता, किसी भी शहर का नाम नहीं ले सकता, किसी भी व्यक्ति विशेष के बारे में कुछ कह नहीं सकता. तो ये तो मतलब मॉरली मुझे बहुत गलत लगा.
मतलब ऐसा कभी हुआ नहीं, मतलब क्या हमारी फिल्में इन पिछले 2 सालों में इतनी ज्यादा मतलब बद से बदतर हो गई कि हर फिल्म को ट्राइब्यूनल में जाके क्लियर होना पड़ता है?
Producers Anurag Kashyap and Ekta Kapoor had to file a case against the CBFC in the Bombay High Court, and it is only after the hearing of this case that the movie was allowed to release with just one cut. Urta Punjab was not the only movie that led to this movement. It was 1 year before all these events when NH10 in 2015 was asked for 9 cuts to tone down its violence and language. In the same year, an indie movie called Angry Indian Goddesses was also subjected to 16 cuts. Over the years, filmmakers have frequently ran into trouble with the CBFC, more than often accepting their cuts. So in today's video, let's talk about some of the Indian movies that fought tooth and nail in order to secure a release, and even the movies that got permanently banned by the board. Punjab 95, a biographical drama directed by Hani Trehan of Raat Akiliye Fail, focused on the life of the late human rights activist Jaswant Singh Khalera. The film, starring Diljit Dosanjh, documents Khalera's work in uncovering the truth behind thousands of illegal killings and cremations by the state police that happened in Punjab between 1980s and 1990s, which was the insurgency period. 6 Punjab police officials were later convicted by the Punjab and Haryana High Court and sentenced to imprisonment for Khalera's abduction and murder. In the early part of 2022, the makers submitted the film to the CBFC. The board recommended 21 cuts, shockingly including any mention of the word Punjab and Punjab police.
कीजिएगा, ये ठीक नहीं हो रहा सर, आप गलत कर रहे हैं सर.
Not being okay with this demand, the filmmakers appealed to the review committee to see the film and give their verdict. The committee instead demanded 37 cuts instead of the previous 21 cuts.
देखिए, मैं खुल के बोल रहा हूँ सर, सॉरी, क्षमा चाह, लेकिन आप गलत कर रहे हैं सर.
Even after accommodating all these cuts, the filmmakers only received radio silence from the board for the upcoming months, because of which this movie went into a limbo for another year. After all this, the filmmakers had to finally move to Bombay High Court for a legal recourse, only to be forced to withdraw the case from the court overnight. In September 2023, out of options and done with trying for domestic release, the makers decided to premiere their film at the Toronto International Film Festival, but were again asked to withdraw the film from the festival. In the end, as a last resort to release the movie only in international circuits was also blocked by the authorities. Today, the movie sits in limbo without any legal recourse or option in sight. It's been 3 years since the first CBFC submission, and the total number of the final cuts now stand at a whopping 127. There's a very interesting video on YouTube where director Hani Trehan describes his entire struggle with the CBFC in much detail. I'm attaching the link to that video in the description to give it a watch. Santosh is a 2024 film starring Shahana Goswami and directed by Sandhya Suri. This was an internationally co-produced film involving the countries like India, United Kingdom, France, and Germany. It was nominated for prestigious awards at BAFTA, Cannes, BFI, and won several other awards worldwide, but it was not allowed to be released in India. Set in India, the movie tells the story of a widow of a recently deceased policeman who joins the police force and ends up investigating a gruesome crime committed against a Dalit girl. The CBFC objected to the scenes that show police brutality and systematic corruption, saying that such scenes depicted the force in a negative light. CBFC also demanded extensive cuts, reportedly spanning multiple pages, when the makers even reasoned with them that implementing these cuts would alter the film's intended essence to a degree that it would no longer make sense anymore. The censor board didn't budge, and today, after an year, despite releasing in France, Netherlands, US, and Spain, the movie still stands unreleased in India. At number 3, we have two films, Panch and Ugly. Kashyap is no stranger to getting in a tussle with the board. In case of Panch, a cult movie today, based on the real-life serial killer case of Pune, known as the Joshi Abhyankar serial murders, was outrightly refused certification by the board. In 2001, when Anurag Kashyap first submitted Panch, the examination committee refused certification, citing the film was unsuitable for public exhibition in any form, owing to its strong language, substance abuse, and graphic violence. The CBFC didn't demand for any cuts or modifications, but straight away banned the movie.
एक फिल्म मेकर जो इतनी दूर से आया था यहाँ पे सिर्फ फिल्म बनाने, हम मुझे नहीं मालूम था कि हम लोग को इतने पहाड़ खोदने पड़ते हैं, इतने समुद्र पार करने पड़ते हैं.
He also proceeded to file a petition with the Film Certification Appellate Tribunal, stating that this film was being unfairly targeted for being bold and unconventional. Yes, it was an unconventional movie for that time with regards to every other Indian movie of the 2000s, primarily because Anurag was one of the first directors behind the resurgence of realistic cinema amidst the brain rot of the 2000s. I guess the censor board was just not ready for his style of depiction with regards to the content in his films. The movie, till today, remains unreleased, with several of its leak prints circulating on YouTube that have now earned it a cult status. Something similar happened in the case of Ugly, where the CBFC board asked Anurag Kashyap to add the no smoking ticker within the scenes of his film. Kashyap was okay with adding the no smoking ad before the movie's credits, but he drew the line when it came to disrupting the scenes of his film.
स्मोकिंग एक एक्टिविटी जो इलीगल नहीं है, तो कंट्री में इलीगल नहीं है, फिर वो फिल्म और टीवी के ऊपर वो क्या जिम्मेदारी डाल दी गई है, थोप दी गई है कि हमें जो लोगो लगाना पड़ेगा, नहीं तो फिल्म एडल्ट हो जाएगी.
Anurag had to finally file a case against the CBFC in the Bombay High Court, but due to all this, the film's release got delayed by more than an year. But sadly, in the end, Anurag had to comply with the CBFC's demand in order to secure a December 2014 release. Unfreedom is an unreleased, independently produced drama from 2014 that deals with the themes of sexuality, violence, and religion through parallel narratives of a lesbian relationship based in Delhi and a radical Islamist living in New York. In 2014, director Raj Amit Kumar submitted the movie to the CBFC for certification, but the board objected strongly to the lesbian love scenes and violence, quoting, "It will ignite unnatural passions and other forms of disturbances in the society." The filmmakers appealed to the Film Certification Appellate Tribunal, hereby known as FCAT, in hopes for a relief. But the tribunal also upheld the board's decision, thus making this one of those rare films that got outrightly banned. Bandit Queen. Directed by Shekhar Kapoor, this movie was based on the life of Phulan Devi, a woman who rose from being a child bride and gang survivor to a feared bandit and later on a politician. This was a movie that presented the story at hand in as raw as possible format, with blood, violence, and even a full frontal nude scene that caused quite an unprecedented debate in the country at that time. On 17th August 1994, the film was submitted to the CBFC. The examination committee instantly objected to the graphic scenes of sexual assault and nudity, explicit language and violence, and the indecent and derogatory portrayal of the women. Neither Shekhar Kapoor nor the film's producer Bobby Bedi wanted to bow down to the cuts demanded by the board, and so they applied to the Film Certification Appellate Tribunal. Interestingly, the FCAT, presided over by the retired judge of the Bombay High Court, Mr. Lentin J, along with 3 other women members, watched the movie only to arrive at the conclusion that the explicit language was not intended to be taken literally, as it only reflected the nuances of the language spoken in the villages of Chambal. As per the violence in one of the scenes where Phulan Devi attacks her abusive husband, the FCAT noted, it was a powerful scene demonstrating Devi's pent-up anger, emotion and revulsion, whose reduction would negate its impact of the overall film. As for the full frontal portion, FCAT asserted that it was an integral part of the story, one that intended to create revulsion in the minds of the average audiences towards the tormentors and oppressors of the women. To delete or even reduce this climatic portion would be a sacrilege. In 1994, intellect and logical reasoning guided the workings of FCAT in addressing the objections against Bandit Queen. In sharp contrast to that, now in 2025, have we as a society intellectually deteriorated so much that the same institution is now banning and silencing films without any discussion? In the case of banning Unfreedom, the board states that the movie elicits unnatural passion. Such wordings just represent their subjective and personal views instead of an objective stance on the movie's content. Today, we as global audiences are very well equipped to call out the bluff when a movie uses explicit language and content to generate shock value versus the movie which chooses to use this content to depict the reality. With YouTube also now beeping words and the heavily monitored content on the platform, where does this censorship stop? I think it's important to ask what level of censorship are we okay with and where do we draw the line? Write to me in the comment section how you feel about the current state of affairs. Until next time.